Yeah, you got a little bit.
Let's look at Go Well Consulting. This is the first submission that a national member asks a question.
That'd be great. Yeah, kia ora koutou, Cornick Morrison. I'm founding director of Go Well Consulting. We're a full-service sustainability consultancy based here in Tamaki, Makaurau. Our whole purpose is to help businesses evolve for the sustainable future, and by that I mean a circular, regenerative, decarbonised economy. Before I go on any further, I just want to acknowledge the people in Dunedin who right now are living through an extreme weather event that has been made significantly worse due to the increased levels of moisture in our atmosphere that are there because of the increased amount of energy and heat in our atmosphere, which is there because of the greenhouse gases that are in our atmosphere, that are increasingly in our atmosphere, and they are increasingly there because of the burning of fossil fuels. Precisely what this government and MPs here on this call are proposing to do. So just want to front this by saying all those who are voting in favour of this bill are proactively and deliberately adding to that problem by putting what would be significantly more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And it is very much agreed within the climate science world and sustainability world, and in the world that I operate within, that to achieve our climate goals and stay under that 1.5 degrees of warming, which is this critical tipping point where we get runaway climate change from these feedback loops, to stay under that 1.5 degrees, we can't develop any new fossil fuel fields, and so that's really clear. And so again, to make that underline that point again, those who agree to put forward this bill and make this change, they are flying in the face of that really clear climate science, and will have to live with that, I guess, and sit on that side of history. So just sort of wanted to start by saying that. I also just want to say, with all due respect to those of you on this call and have made time to be here, this feels like a colossal waste of time, considering the rhetoric of the minister and what seems very clear what they're wanting to do. And I've listened to a couple of presentations already, but have also highlighted how frustrated we feel as a public who've been very much shut out of this democratic process. So that feels extremely frustrating, and I think that point's been well made by others as well. But hey, I do thank you that I've got this time, and I will take this very short snippet to try and perhaps influence one or two people to change their minds or vote differently. Our presentation, our submission, again, due to the very short time frame to put submissions in, it was pretty short and pretty focused on the impact this will have on the New Zealand global brand. So we work with we've worked with hundreds of businesses across dozens of industries. We're all facing these same problems. We all have to transform our economic system and our energy system. It's happened before in history. We used to be powered by slaves, and then by animals, and then by wood, and then by fossil fuels, and now we've got another energy transition that's happening. And for New Zealand to not acknowledge that and to not get on board with that is really damaging to our global brand and to the businesses we work with. Extremely frustrated that they're trying so hard to reduce emissions, yet they are up against real headwinds from global market changes, from consumers looking to buy more locally, really concerned about freight-related emissions. For example, buying a bottle of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc versus something that's produced over in France for someone in the European Union. Some real challenges there, and so our only real strategy in that is that the way we're producing on site or on farm in New Zealand is significantly lower, and I guess forward thinking and in that regenerative kind of way of growing our products. There's a bit of research that came out recently by the RTS Circle, and I think it was PwC. Don't quote me on the second author there, but definitely RTS Circle, that showed 80% of New Zealand's exports by value are going to countries that have existing requirements around carbon emissions or pending requirements around that 80% by value. So just trying to really reiterate the damage that you will do to global brand and what impact that will then have flowing onto our business community and our economy from that point. It just feels like this is not by any means a decision based around science. It's really clear why climate change is happening and what's going to make it worse, and it's really clear the direction that the global markets and economy is going. Feels like this is a doubling down in old, outdated thinking and ideology. So find it hugely frustrating that that's what's happening within our government, when so many in the business community are trying really hard to stand up to these really complex and challenging problems, right? That's pretty much all I wanted to say, really. I might leave it there. I'm getting a bit wound up as well, sorry. So open for questions.
Thank you, Nick. We have some questions here. Steve, Abel?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. And rightly, you should be getting wound up. A lot of us are wound up about it as well on the committee. And so the question I had for you is just to dig a bit more into that point you made about 80% of our export destinations, is that this is what direction the whole world is going, and we as a nation would like to see ourselves as part of being on the right side of history, part of being in the global challenge of dealing with climate change, which means everyone needs to do their bit. So what do you think, to expand further, is the impact of this action, which really just sends a message to the world that we're departing from the global science, we're departing from that community of action on climate change and joining the fossil fuel retrograde attitudes of the past? With a Victorian era minded Minister of Resources who just wants to send things to extinction and dig up more oil, gas and coal for that matter. Look, big question, Steve. And I'm not in a position to kind of quantify by any kind of monetary value of what the impact would be. Just going back to that article, just quickly brought it back up, that the reports by the Aotearoa Circle and Chapman Tripp. And so, definitely recommend having a look into that report and around the exposure that we have, or our exporters have to these changing trends around the world. Like I say, I can't put any sort of numbers around it, sorry, Steve, right now, but I think it's pretty bloody obvious to anyone who at least works in my space, I guess, that this is absolutely the direction of travel of businesses globally and consumers globally. I mean, the quick example that jumps to mind is the whole situation with Nestle demanding Fonterra sort out their on-farm emissions, right? And so there's a massive global business that's just turned around and made our biggest business suddenly stand up and start sorting out their on-farm emissions. So that's just, I guess, one example, Steve. But that's probably as much as I can do at this stage. That's great. Thank you.
Wait more time, maybe.
Thank you. Dan Bidwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, Nick, for your submission. Just going to your written submission on your recommendations, I think there's actually, and this is maybe more of a statement than a question, but I agree with your second point around increasing renewable generation. That's this government's plan, is to double that. The third point is around your suggestion around putting Cabinet through some economic and climate science training. I would agree with that, and I'd agree to that across the House. And to your first point around banning oil and gas, I disagree with it. Regardless of what my colleague Steve Abel says, I'm actually very in favour of this as a means for providing us with energy resilience in the future.
Right.
Thanks, Dan. I just want to quickly just come back to that, just to make sure you're really comfortable to sign off putting more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, considerably more. And considering what's happening in Dunedin right now, considering the amount of weather events that have hit New Zealand recently, the amount of flooding, the damage that it's done to our economy, our people, our livelihoods, you are really comfortable to go ahead and put a green tick on a significant amount of new fossil fuels going in the atmosphere, greenhouse gases.
That's a debatable point, Nick, but I appreciate your submission today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Nick, for your submission.
I would have liked to have seen those two debate. That would have been good.
Oh, yes, but your time's expired.
Oh.
Well, I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a win-win situation. Like I understand that we do have a European Free Trade Agreement, and the European Union is very advanced. We doing research with them before. They have the European Charter of Fundamental Rights, even for women and children. European Charter of Rights and Environment. They are very onto it. I mean, even when I did my research for the whole Germany as an independent researcher on hate crime, they were so progressive and still fundamentally conservative. It's very funny mix. And so the point here is that what Dan Bidios makes a point is that you notice he used a very important word: energy resilience, energy independence. We don't want to be like, please, Indonesia, send us the coal. And then Indonesia said, we won't give you the coal unless you give us, you can put 1 million of our people in your country. I mean, not like that. But what I'm trying to say is by having energy independence from all the mining and exploration, we actually control the means of energy so people won't muck us around, won't bully us. So New Zealand is not as small as I always think. I notice a lot of politicians here like to say, we are a small country, we are a small country. Actually, the answer is no. You look at our landmass, we are a big country, we are a great country.
We're a small country by population.
Yes, but we are not going to make New Zealand great again. We are not Trumpian, okay? We are not going to do that. But we're going to say that.
No, we've had our
We already are great.
We are already great. We are already great with our products. We're already great with our green products. We're already great with our fantastic beef, fantastic kiwi fruit, fantastic mineral resources. The key is how to harness this energy, create jobs. Forgive me for using this word that you guys say, make money, which provides for everybody, put bread on the table, and at the same time protect our sovereignty and our national territorial integrity, and have people invest and make money for us and with us. So you see, this is
I just want to make a point to what Frosty said there. On most select committees, you don't tend to have ministers sitting on them. Dan Bidios is an MP.
Yeah, he's not a minister.
He's your local MP, Eric, I think.
Yeah, he's my local MP. I go to a lot of our Super Blues meeting.
He's Eric's local MP, and Paul's local MP as well. He is not a minister. And usually on select committees is when you get to see the backbench MPs, not the ministers.
Yes.
Okay, so to address Eric.
And Frosty's now corrected himself. A national member.
He's a national member, not the minister.
If I could address Eric.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Energy resilience. Yes, I agree. Very, very important. We're at the bottom of the world. We need all the energy we can get. But I think that because ecologically speaking, we've got a huge amount of natural resources, and thankfully, a lot of them are renewable. So there are steps we can do to expand that, and the green tech industry sector is growing, and it's projected to keep growing. And I think it's really important that we strike the iron while it's hot. There is a lot we can do with that here. I mean, do you know how many countries would kill to have access to the environmental resoresources that we have?
Exactly.
I mean, we've got a ton of water for starters. We've got lots of wind. I mean, holy crap! I live in Ekatahuna. Huge amounts of wind comes blowing through here, and we're not taking advantage of that. But there are good jobs there that labourers can pick up in the green tech sector. And I'm very keen to support those people as they transition over from, fossil fuel industry over to green tech. I think the government has a responsibility there to help these people get into those jobs.
The only thing is that I think we must be cautious when we come to international agreements, right? Not to be too much of a goody two-shoes. In New Zealand, we have a habit of, we were the first country for women's voting, great. We were the first country for minority representation, great. And then we want to be like the darling country for everybody. But then all the other countries say, yes, we agree with the environment, but we will protect our Australian farmers. And we agree with all this, we will protect our American farmers, our American forestry. We are the only ones that, yes, we will give all the money of ours, $15 billion from our taxpayer for paying off carbon credits on behalf of helping reduce carbon emissions for the world. We are so goody two-shoes, great. But then, that 15 billion could be used for our health. I
agree. Yeah, decarbonizing our economy will really help with that. right? We can save money. We don't have to buy the carbon credits from overseas if we are actively decarbonizing.
But
We don't have to do that. We don't have to buy stuff from China.
Yes. Do we have to sign off the dotted line to do it straight away when other countries will say, yeah, it's a very good idea. Diplomacy, I'll shake your hands.
Yeah, but the other one is to have a transition plan. Like this.
You have to be smart. We have to protect our.
Yes, we need to be smart.
Yeah. I mean, some of it is planning. Now, I remember in 2020 when Tamitha Paul put out a statement that as part from, and I can't remember if it was 2025 or 2030, but it was to have no internal combustion engines. Was it inside the CBD limits of the Golden Mile, the areas and all that? And people cried foul because they equated as something happening 10 years down the track as it is on the doorstep tomorrow. Yeah. While she pushed the policy of we're going to ban internal combustion engines in the CBD. If you want to take a vehicle in the CBD, you have an electric vehicle. Here it is, Bidfood. Here it is, Gilmore's. For the places doing that, when you look at your plan of new plant and equipment for trucks, look at, say, an electric option or a hybrid option. Don't look at a sole internal combustion engine option. That sort of thing. It gives that message. And some people see that message of, let's start planning ahead. Let's start sending the message. This is what we plan to do. And some people are like, oh, we're going to sit there and stop it. Oh, it's impractical. We're thinking about it tomorrow. We're not thinking about the long term. It's that sort of thing there. And like how people got so enraged and upset because they took something as a long-term decision to send to the trucking industry, send to Greater Wellington Regional Council to tell the bus industry of Wellington to electric buses, which actually Greater Wellington Regional Council has stated that no new bus contracts will be for buses that are diesel. All new bus contracts have to be electric or hydrogen, even though the hydrogen technology ain't at that point yet, but that's what they've said is their standard. People got up in arms because they thought this is coming in tomorrow because they chose not to listen. They chose to take it out of context. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing there. It's like when you're trying to take something as a long-term, let's say this is how we're going to sit there and do things as a long-term plan, and people take that long-term plan as a short-term, short-term, it's going to be happening now.
So
it's really important to pair that up with good policy too to help industries transition over to that green tech.
Yeah.